Okay, wonderful. All right, so Lynn, today we're going to be discussing chapter two, and we actually recorded chapter two already. We spoke about chapter two, but the recording for some reason messed up. I don't know, I don't understand it, but anyway, here we are again today. And chapter two in your book, Overcoming Adversity through higher by what is it? Overcoming
Embr
adversity
Overcoming adversity by embracing the higher
by
truths.
embracing the higher truths. I always want to say overcoming adversity through accepting higher truths. I don't know why I always want to say that. Maybe they're connected somehow. But I mean, embracing and accepting is kind of synonymous, I think.
It's the same. This is the title that Spirit gave me. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of a
No, I get
title,
that.
so
I get that because we're working on a book right now as well together with others, and there were discussions about changing the title and the subtitle. And I understand, like when you get a title and that is what it is, you cannot change it because there's specific a vibration behind it. There's a specific encoding behind the words and behind why it was chosen to be like that. So I get it.
yeah, I had some people gave me suggestions once they saw the title, and I started to think about it, and it didn't feel right. I'd always
That's
went
the
back to the
thing.
title I had.
That's the thing. It doesn't feel right, even though there are other ways you can say it that might sound clever or that might look better on a book cover or whatever. There's a specific reason why those words were chosen. So I get it. I get it completely. But so chapter two was all about your younger years between the ages of 0 and 2. And I found it very fascinating for many reasons. But one of the reasons is in your chapter, you wrote about how you as a soul came to your mother to kind of ease her anxiety. So I'm interested in two things. I have two questions for you. The first question is, why do you think that didn't work? Right? So you just the basics. And number two, before reading that in your book, I was not aware of the fact that a soul could do that, that you could come to another and have an intention to calm them, release them from anxiety or whatever it may be. So if you could maybe speak on that a little bit as well.
Well, I'll start with the second one first. I wasn't aware of it either. I had read books on life between lives. I'd read Michael Newton's books, and I hadn't seen that. And for those, his books are mentioned in my book, and he started this life between lives process. He started it. It came to him in the 1960s, and he turned it over to others in 2001, like 2001. And when he did it, the sessions were he had a format and he didn't deviate from the format. So things like this did not come up. Today's facilitators just ask you open-ended questions, and things are starting to come up that haven't come up in the past. And I don't know if any of the 70,000 people who've ever had a session have brought something like this up, but it just came to me. I started, the facilitator, Scott DeTamble, asked me when he was asking me in the first session with him in December. He said, we were talking about being in the womb, and I said, I burst out, at some point my soul came, and I felt that soul coming into the body. And he asked me, when did your soul come? I believe this is how it went. And I said, well, the first time or the second time. And then I started talking about this, and I shared a little about it. And then in the session in May, I mentioned it again, and I had a lot more memory of exactly what happened. I wasn't aware of it either, and what I learned, and you'll see when you read the book, is that souls can do that, but it's limited because we have I should say I saw my pre-birth planning or some of it with these souls that are my family members. And to the extent it would interfere with the free will of all of the souls involved, we don't intervene. One soul doesn't come and intervene and change free will, even though it's possible because of the power of the soul. But the soul can come, any soul can come and try to smooth out circumstances a little. And I did experience that in my past life regression after the passing of the life. So to a certain extent, it can be done just to smooth out circumstances a little. And that's what happened. And for people who are saying, um, how do we souls do that? I don't know the scientific mechanism. I said the soul just thought of the mother and, thought did it, And many people who are reading the book or hearing this have experienced like loved ones coming to them after the loved one passes. That, that can feel their loved ones either through mediums or personally. And it's the same thing because the soul is eternal. So, and there's no time where we're in the home where our soul's home. So it's no different. The process, which I don't understand completely as a human, is the same whether it's after the physical death of the body or before the birth of the body. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think I said that in one of the sessions. It's like a soul wants to visit a grieving loved one. Why didn't it work? I didn't get that information in the sessions, so it would be guesswork. I suspect it's because the soul of my mother combined with the life circumstances and what I call ego, which doesn't mean like I'm so great or anything. To me, ego just means the personality of the human that thinks this 3D world is all there is. So that's what I mean by ego. She had so convinced herself and she was so anxious. She had so convinced herself there was nothing more than the material world. And she had developed such anxiety traits that nothing was coming in. Nothing was coming in. And it'll come, I don't want to go on and on because you have a lot of questions, but my mother now has Alzheimer's and she's seeing the spirit world. And I, as a human, from my soul level, am trying to get in and help her understand it. And she's not letting that in either. So the whole personality is just has been closed from probably from childhood.
Mm.
And I
Yeah,
don't know what happened in her childhood to close her. I don't know much about her childhood at all.
yeah. And it's tough when you're dealing with loved ones and you can see what they're experiencing and what they're going through. And I can imagine that it's not pleasant on any level, even just being in a state of anxiety, being in a state of going back to your younger years with your mother. Um, you mentioned in your book that she didn't want to have children and that she was convinced that there was something wrong with you. So even just being in that state of, I don't know what the word is, but disconnect, I guess would be a good word, or even just constantly feeling like you are doing something you don't want to be doing. It's not a pleasant feeling, and I can imagine how that affected her negatively. And I'm I want to say that maybe, and I don't know, we don't know, you don't know, but maybe all of the things that she has experienced in her life were also for her own experience towards growth and learning and expanding and evolving in that way. We won't know. She'll figure it out on her own journey, as we all are on. Um, but this is what I wanted to know from you, and that is, so we know now that between the ages of 0 and 7 are very critical for children to be nurtured and to be, fed mentally, emotionally, physically good things because they absorb it like a sponge and that affects them for the rest of their lives. How do you think your upbringing, specifically those younger years, affected you spiritually as an adult? Positively, and obviously there were negative effects too. But I want to hear the positive as well as some of the not so positive things.
Well, without going on and on, I did not discover until the Life Between Lives sessions that I did not, because I felt it in the womb. They'd go take you to the womb, and that's when I felt my mother didn't want children and thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't know that until then. That was not until this 2025. This is an interesting question because I did see my pre-birth planning in the family, some of the family's pre-birth planning, and not even all my pre-birth planning, but that a lot of the experiences that I had labeled negative and blamed my mother for growing up, my soul chose those experiences and her soul chose those experiences. And not only that, but the soul chose those experiences because of things that happened in past lives. So I could stop blaming my mother and feeling like a victim. And those experiences were chosen, specifically childhood experiences. As we get older, or as I got older, because I didn't have any free will as a child, not many children do. So I chose those experiences. And that's how it helped me spiritually to know that I chose those experiences as a soul. When I realized that, that was like, now I understand why I chose them. And it was to learn unconditional self-love in a human body, which has been my number one growth opportunity here this time. And that really made a difference to me. Oh, and even now I keep getting into circumstances where there'll be somebody in a group who like rubs me the wrong way or wants to pick a fight with me because I'm still learning that unconditional self. So that is how it impacted me positively spiritually. I don't think I would have come into my own this time in this life without that. So I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it now. And that's hard to say. You know, it's hard to believe, and I wouldn't have believed it 5 years ago. Negatively is only from a human perspective. And that's how I feel about it. I'm not telling anybody what to think. But to me, from a human perspective, as a child, being told and not knowing, much spiritually because what I did know was kind of grilled out of me at a very young age. But thinking, being told, because I grew up during the Vietnam War, being told that the world is a horrible place, that we're one click short of blowing ourselves up. And we had drills about that in school. World War III drills. And being told that life is unfair, look at all the suffering, and being told that when you die, you die. That and not getting any alternative education because we didn't get any spiritual or religious education, and it was not discussed in the schools. And I didn't have any friends; it just didn't come up. So knowing only that is a scary thing for a child because a child believes the parents. So all my childhood years, I was panicky about, and I discussed this, I was panicky about the thought of death and how meaningless the whole thing was, and how unhappy I was, and what a victim I was, and how meaningless this was. And then I was going to die. Like, this sucks. Sorry for my language. This is so unfair. And I didn't count my blessings. My parents were affluent. Um, and I had all material things. I didn't count those blessings. I was just, this is unfair. This world is a horrible place, and then you die. So feeling that way as a child and not knowing there was any alternative out there, that was not pleasant for the human. I have to admit, it was not pleasant.
You've been through so much because when I read through your book and I imagine what you must have felt like as a child, as a young child, after the age of 2, when you went to school, you did not have a good time at school. You
No,
didn't have a lot of people around you that you could, speak with and be open with and talk things out with, and you felt very isolated. And it really made me feel like if I don't know how I would have survived that situation if I were you. You are a lot stronger than I was when I was a child to go through all of that. And at the end of everything, say, I've transformed into having unconditional self-love. Like that is amazing. And I want to talk a little bit more about that unconditional self-love, because everything that you've experienced up until you were an adult all pointed towards you are not good enough, you are not enough, no one wants to be your friend, you are not loved, your mom didn't want you, whatever it may be, whether it was said to you or not, subconsciously and unconsciously, all of that was there in a very ugly tasting soup. And this was, what you had to deal with. I want to know how, on a day-to-day basis, as you were an adult and you were going about your life and doing life, as an adult, how did you manage stress, anxiety, these type of feelings before your spiritual awakening?
I didn't. I and I want to go to the present. I mean, unconditional self-love is a work in progress. If I mastered it, I'd be back in the spirit world, ready for my next incarnation and whatever I was. Because now that I've had a lot of new, and I digress, but now that I've been in a lot of new situations, there's still those times when I hope these people like me. There's still those vestiges of the past. I still in therapy with a very spiritual therapist every week. I still have to take myself down from that and do like self-love things. So it's not constant. Um, but it's pretty good compared to that. I didn't manage. I managed when I was a kid because I was bullied. I managed when I was a kid, and it wasn't managing by by isolating. I even kids who would have been my friends, I was so afraid they wouldn't like me if they got to know me, that I just isolated. As an adult, when I had to be around people, it was people pleasing and with well, let me back up. With my mother, I didn't manage. I just screamed at her and she screamed back. With other people, as a kid, again, it was like when I went to camp and I'd hang around with the counselors who were about 17 or 18. I wouldn't hang around with the kids. And as an adult, it was constant people pleasing, especially when I started working. It was it was people pleasing. It was trying to be the best at everything. It was thinking that if I only got this award or this recognition, then I would like myself. And that never worked. And repeating the same thing and expecting that this time this is going to make me happy. It just didn't happen, surprisingly enough. Haha, I mean, but I thought it was the thinking patterns. It's like all I have to do is get another person to be my friend or give me a piece of praise or whatever, and then I'd feel better. So that wasn't really managing. That was not really managing. And I still had all the fears of death. I had body image obsessions. I had age obsessions. I was pretty unhappy. I had happy times even as a child, and I kind of the unhappy times just seemed to be so unhappy that they kind of overshadowed the happy times. So how did I manage? I didn't. not, I didn't manage in a way that was healthy, I should say that.
Yeah. 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 And as I read through your book and as I we are working together on this other project, I'm realizing more and more how actually having these life between life sessions or even past life regression sessions can be extremely helpful, even if you don't feel like you need it, even if you don't feel like you're gonna learn something profound from these sessions, because we all have baggage. We all have gone through life as a child, life as a teenager, young adult, whatever it may be, and have traumas. We all have suppressed, psychological things that make us who we are, whether it be positive or negative. And I really feel like the more we know who we are, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo spiritual sense. I mean that like in a grounded human point of view. The more I know why I behave the way I do, why I think the way I do, why I choose this option instead of that option, the more I understand that about myself, the better I can focus on what I want to create and who I want to become and what I want to do and how I want to contribute to my family and my household and ultimately the world and society. Um, what has been one of the best things you have learned from your life between lives, past life regression sessions, that were maybe not related to spirituality or not related to your soul's journey specifically, but really contributed to your, I want to say, quality of life, maybe?
Well, the spiritual is what, woo-woo, quote unquote, is what did change everything. I can't divorce it from the ultimate realization. I mean, that's what changed everything,
Yeah.
that I am not my body. I mean, this
Yes.
is an experience that I am an eternal soul. I am much more than my body. And that was what changed it for me. That's what shifted everything. And that since this is true for me, this is true for everybody,
Yes.
because that's what changed the underlying, and it's still a work in progress. And I always, what changed on the human level, I can start to understand that's true for everybody, even the worst of the government leaders. That's who they are. It's gotten buried under a bunch of stuff. On a human level, though, I recognize and I try to recognize that for me, and I'm only speaking for me, and it's come up in therapy, that because I'm in a human experience, I can feel the full range of human emotions. I can't spiritually bypass them by knowing this. I want to let go of I letting go of emotions like envy and those emotions do not, that's not even an emotion. But emotions like sadness, grief, anger, I allow myself to feel the full range of human emotions. And that's really helped me. Because at first I thought I had, when this first started, the journey, I thought I'd be happy all the time. And my therapist used a term called spiritual bypassing. I can't do that. If somebody dies, I'm going to be sad. And if there's a situation in the world, I'm allowed myself to be sad about it. That's what I've learned about from the human perspective. From life's perspective, the spiritual realization has allowed me to slow down and be mindful. I do get frustrated. I get caught up in, someone cuts me off in traffic and I want to make the first thing I want to do is flip them, never mind. But then I slow down and remember that is so unimportant.
Mhm.
And I take a few deep breaths. That's helped me live.
Yeah.
It's helped me recognize that if I'm having trouble in one of my roles that I'm playing, like as a friend or a wife or a my job. That's not who I am. That's an experience, that's a role, and I want to do it with love.
Yes.
And I want to do it with kindness to myself.
Yes.
And it's also allowed me to recognize that the world, this earth that's so chaotic right now, can change. We can become more loving, and that I can make that change by being a loving person. I don't have to go end a war on my own. I can be kind. I can say it's changed because it makes me aware that if I see someone in the supermarket, I can say hello. Have a great day. And that may stop somebody from committing suicide. That may stop somebody from going home to their family and yelling at the kids. I recognize from a human, even from a human perspective, that every little act of kindness makes a difference. Every thought of kindness makes a difference. Every thought of love makes a difference. And finally, I've recognized that I have two choices, love or fear. All the choices, the millions of choices I have all boil down to whether it's in love or in fear. And when I say love, I mean unconditional love for myself and whatever other people or persons are involved in the situation. So that's what's changed. Because before it was like, what's best for Lynne? It wasn't what's best for the situation. And what's best for Lynne wasn't necessarily loving to Lynne.
Yeah.
So all those things. I know that's a long answer, but there's just so many things.
No, that's a perfect answer. And there's many things in what you've said that I resonate with too. When I had my spiritual awakening, the realization that I'm not this body and I'm not, just a human, that I'm actually an infinite being having a human experience, just knowing that changed my life too. And the tool that you described, I actually use that in my daily life too, of constantly being in reminder of that, when I'm interacting with people, when, like you said, in a frustrating situation or, doing something or experiencing something. And I remind myself of that because it really changes my perspective instantly. Sometimes my human takes over a lot more than I would want it to. So yeah, I 100% resonate with everything that you've said. And I just wanna
Yeah,
end with this. I wanna say, and the more people that I work with and the more people that share openly and honestly about their traumas and their experiences and how their spiritual awakening, and all the roles and how it's all intertwined, the more I'm realizing that it is all just a role. It is all just this elaborate play, that we're all experiencing. And it doesn't have to be sad and bad all the
mm,
time, you know? And we have the power to change our lives. We have the power to change anything that we experience.
we
And
do.
so, yeah.
Yeah,
And
we do.
so,
Yeah.
um, there's so much more that we will discuss in, upcoming videos. We'll discuss chapter 3 and 4 and all that. And there's many more questions I have there. But I have to cut it short right now,
I
unfortunately.
hear your baby crying.
Yeah, she's looking for me. So I'll put all the links to your book and everything else in the description, your website, your email, and all that. And I look forward to
Thanks.
speaking to you next week, Lynn.
And I'll see you on Monday.
Yes.
Bye
Bye.
bye.